guys, welcome to day 18 of our 90-day challenge. Today we're going to go through just one new lead. We're going to go through a lot of offer delivered follow-ups, so we'll kind of see where everyone's at with regard to our offers. And then we have a lot of follow-up calls to make. So let's just dive right in here and see what we can do.
Hi, this is Tyler Schneider with eXp Realty.
I texted him. Okay, cool. Let's go through our offer delivers now and see where everyone's at.
Hello, it's me.
Amy, it's Mike. How you doing?
It's fine. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Last time I spoke with you, you were in the hospital. How's your new grandchild?
Oh, he is here. He is
Amazing.
here and chunky and cute, but he is doing very well. Thank you so much for asking.
Well, that's amazing news. Congratulations. I was trying to get a hold of you last week regarding your Hilton Drive listing. And we sent over an offer. I just wanted to see where you guys were at and see if the seller had considered our offer.
So I still don't have any emails from you.
Okay, let me just double check the email address I have for you. I have Amy_realtor@outlook.com.
That is correct.
Okay.
And I have looked for your email. I've looked for your name. I've looked for Michael. I've looked for Hilton Drive. I went in my junk folder, which I'm here at the office now, so I will look. I do not. Okay.
Let me do this. Let me just text it to you.
Right one. I have something in Mike Jackson.
Yep.
I have one. Well, I don't know how many times you emailed me, but I got one. It's in my junk email, but let me go move it over to my non-junk email. Because I looked, and maybe because I typed in your whole name. I didn't see it. I typed in Michael instead of Mike. Let me look. Where did it go? I just moved it over. Let me go find it now. 9,000 emails. Where did it just go? I just moved it over. Open. There it is. Okay. Let me see here. I do have it. Let's see here. I do have it now. I can review this and send it to them.
Yeah,
I do have your offer now.
Perfect. Let me know if you have any questions on that, and we're happy to answer any of those that come up. And yeah,
Is this a subject to, or are y'all actually offering?
This is us. Yeah, this is us taking over the payments on the underlying mortgage.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, I don't, because it's a VA loan, and I know he wants to release his eligibility, so it probably won't work out because he wants to release so he can buy again.
And so, what is his concern with maintaining the entitlement in this property?
So he used the VA loan to buy it. So unless he sells it original, like normal, not through a subject to or anybody, unless you're a VA buyer and you can assume the mortgage, which will then release his eligibility, it won't work.
And so he doesn't want to use his secondary entitlement to purchase his next property?
He can. He doesn't qualify for enough until he sells his property.
Oh, well, that's easy. I can show you guys how that could work. And that's only if you guys do decide to go down this route. but feel free to keep this offer in the back pocket of yours, and then
Okay.
we'll just kind of see where it goes. But yeah, that's never been an issue for us in terms of accessing additional entitlement, especially if we are purchasing this property subject to the existing financing, because we can show how that does work to the future lender. So that's actually not an issue at all.
So it's an issue for a VA.
Why?
It's just for the VA, for the veterans. So it goes off of you're only allowed so much entitlement off of your income. And his VA entitlement will stay attached to this property because nobody is taking over the VA entitlement, or he didn't sell it and release it. He cannot release his VA entitlement on a subject to. So he will still be attached to this property with his VA loan.
Correct.
So that, like, I get that you're going to pay for it. That's not the issue, which that's fine. And I get you're going to make payments and it's going to be so long. Like, I've done them many times and I've done them, but it's just got to be conventional, or it cannot be a VA, a veteran buyer that has a property. Whenever you want to buy a new property, your VA entitlement, you can use it again and again and again. I'm in the military, I'm retired, I've done this for a long time. It goes off of your income. So I've used my VA multiple times and had multiple homes under one VA entitlement, but I've made enough money to qualify for that. And he just doesn't have enough entitlement. Even if it's somebody paying for the mortgage, even if he rented it out, it still doesn't release his VA.
Correct. You have another VA loan out there somewhere?
I am not sure. I know they have this one.
Okay. Because based on the numbers that I run here with our lender, he can qualify for another $424,000 with 0% down through a VA.
Correct. Yep, he can do that as long as he has enough VA entitlement, which that with this house being with the 300 and something that he owns on it, he has to be entitled to 800 and something. Say if he was going to buy a $400,000 house, the max used to be 424. There's no longer a cap on VA entitlement. It goes off of your income. So there used to be a cap. There is no longer a cap on lending. It just goes off of your income. A VA buyer can buy $1 million house. It doesn't matter as long as they qualify for it. And they can use their VA loan to do it. But he does not, he's a new into the military, mm-hmm. and he does not have enough income.
Got it. So we're actually talking about two completely separate things, right? There's income and then there's entitlement. Now there are limits to entitlement. So in the city where this property is, the county loan limit is $766,000, right? So if he's only used $342,000 of his entitlement, he can still qualify separately with leaving this mortgage in place for another $424,000 in entitlement. So that's the entitlement issue. The other thing that you're bringing up is the idea of him qualifying based on his income. Right?
Correct.
So that's a whole other thing entirely, but it's actually kind of correlated in some way. And so what I mean by that is, if hypothetically you guys were to go down this route, and it doesn't sound like it's a fit, but just in case, if you guys do decide to go down this route, it's really easy to show that this property is now the responsibility of somebody else, meaning that income, or the debt is a better way to put it, the debt from this property is going to be released from his debt to income. So he can still qualify for an additional $424,000 with 0% down at the same income level very, very easily.
Okay. Well, I will send this over to him and let him know, and I'm just reviewing it right now while you're talking.
Yeah, no worries. And, we sent this over just because based on the numbers that we saw, it looks like it's a really tight equity position. I want to pay him money instead of him having to pay at close, if that's a possibility. So that's why we thought it could be a beneficial offer for him.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, he definitely, and they literally just bought it. I recommended that they rented it out, but he's going to try to sell first. So that's what he's trying to do as of now.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Well, let me know how it goes. I'm happy to answer any questions. We do these sorts of things literally all day long. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you come across.
All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate the call. Sorry it took, I see it and you sent this one on March 26th, but this is the only one that I have, and I don't know why, but it was in my junk, and I looked for it, and I was like, but I guess I was looking up Michael. I looked up Hilton, and it just didn't pull up. But now,
no worries. Perfectly fine. No worries. All right. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
New lead. Press any key to connect.
Jesus. Hey, Tyler, it's Mike. How you doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm glad we could connect.
Sorry about the phone tag.
No. I totally get it. It's a good thing that you're busy, and me too.
Yeah.
Me too. So I want to touch basically on this listing that you have, and it's the one over on Buck Run. And I just want to get a better sense of what the story is there. I could have sworn that I saw this listed before. Has this been relisted recently?
Yeah, we relisted it. We had a listing agreement and it was about to expire, so we just extended it. So then we just relisted it.
Okay. And
so we've had 3 offers with it, but my seller didn't want to take any of them. To be full transparent, he needs a buyer that's going to be able to pay for their own closing costs.
Is that just because he's tight on equity?
We've had 3 offers, but they asked us to do the 3% closing costs on our part, but he financially isn't able to do that.
Yeah, it's
and the other feedback also is it doesn't have a garage. Okay. So a lot of people that came and seen it are out of state, and they're used to having a garage and all that. So they thought this townhouse had at least like a parking garage where everyone puts their car, but that's not the case. It's actually a park in front of the building itself. So everyone didn't like that either.
Yeah, I totally get that after this week. I live in Austin, and I left my car outside my house, and we had an unexpected hailstorm come through with golf ball size hail, and my car just got destroyed. So I guess I can appreciate that to some degree now. So when I was doing a little bit of research on Buck Run, it did look to me like it was a really tight equity position. So I understand the idea of someone coming into having to pay the closing costs on at least on his side and our side and both sides. But just out of curiosity, have you guys been proposed the idea of someone coming in and actually taking responsibility for paying your commission and all of the closing costs, and also some cash for an equity position? But instead of coming in with conventional financing, have you guys been presented with the idea of someone taking over the mortgage?
You mean like an assumable loan?
Sort of, yeah.
I don't know if the loan that he has on it would be able to do that, but I do know that it at least needs to be names transferred from deeds. Like his name can't stay on the deed, and then you just take over the payments. We've had that multiple times.
Got it.
Offered to it.
Got it. And so it sounds like what you're talking about more as someone buying it subject to the existing financing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, with regard to that type of transaction structure, what doesn't make sense for him?
He just doesn't want to do it, I guess. He just wants to do a traditional, just have someone buy it, and then he gets, he closes it, and he gets to go do his business that he's moved away from Nashville for, and go do that.
Got it. So if I were to kind of on that topic a little bit, if I were to come in and offer to pay the closing costs, and I can pay you your commission, so there's nothing that is responsible from his side of the closing. If I paid him, $5,000 or $10,000 cash at closing, would he be willing to reconsider something like that?
It's his name getting transferred out of the deed, and you're just going there?
Well, there are 2 separate things that we're talking about, right? We're talking about the ownership on the home and then the mortgage, right? 2 separate things. So this would be a
So
full.
it's his name tied to it's his name going to be tied to the property. That's what we need to get to, because that's what he doesn't want.
Right, and that's exactly what I was getting at. Is the property is one thing and then the mortgage is another. So if we do something like that, we would purchase the property, the mortgage would stay in place.
Okay. No, he wouldn't want to do that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We've actually had 2 or 3 people that have asked him, and he just doesn't. I can present it to him just to be fair, but he's already said no to 2 or 3 of them already.
Okay. And his feedback was just that he didn't want it. Does he really understand kind of how that all works? Has he ever done something like that before?
Yeah, he understands. He just wants to he just doesn't want to be tied to any of the mortgage or the property at all.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no worries. I thought that since it looks like it's a negative equity position that he might consider something like that, but it sounds like he's more concerned about just getting his name off that mortgage, right?
Correct. Yeah, he's going through a lot of stuff with just moving and with his job and family and all that stuff. He just wants to get.
Okay. I totally get it, especially with VA loans like this. This is a situation where it could possibly impact his entitlement at some point. So I can absolutely appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, let me do this, Tyler. I'm going to keep an eye on this. Hopefully you guys sell it conventionally and the seller gets what they're looking for. If at some point it's still on the market 2 weeks or 30 days down the line, I might just submit something that's similar to what we're talking about, just to put it in your back pocket as a secondary option. And if you guys ever do change your mind, I just want to be there and tell you guys that I'm interested still.
Okay. What's your name again? Your last name?
Jackson. Mike Jackson.
Mike Jackson. Okay.
Yep.
Well, it's good to meet you. Good to talk to you finally. And then, yes, I will definitely keep your number intact.
I appreciate that, Tyler. Thank you so much.
Have a good day, man.
You too. Okay. We got a lot to unpack here. Just make some notes and then let's talk about it. Let's figure out what's going on. This is a relisting period. The seller is not interested in a subject to offer period. It sounds like the seller does not want any association with the property period. It also sounds like the seller doesn't understand the process and how it could possibly benefit him period. I told the agent that I would reach out to him in 2 weeks to 30 days to see if the property is still on the market, and then at that point submit an offer as a backup period. Okay, so let's talk about this one, then we'll go to the last one. So this is a situation where the agent clearly does not understand the process of subject to, which is perfectly fine. You're going to run into this more often than not. And it's just going to take a little bit of time to kind of massage, explain what's going on. And again, the idea is not to get this listing here. Maybe it's going to benefit him, the agent, I mean, and also us at some point down the line by just educating, providing that knowledge. So I think in this situation, depending on what's going on with the seller, this possibly could be of benefit to him. Now, it just has to be properly explained. This is a VA loan. The issue that he's going to have is potential entitlement. Whenever a seller says to their agent or an agent says to us that they just want to be done with the property, typically what I hear in the back of my mind is, well, it sounds like you just may not understand the process. And I can't really say that in a way that doesn't sound condescending. And that's always been my struggle with that type of response. So what I want to do is I want to think about how I can position myself so that I can respond in a way that is effective, but also providing value, and let's just kind of talk it out here for a second. So if an agent says they just want to be done with the property, what you could say is something like, anytime an agent does tell me that, and we do these type of transactions all the time, usually an agent means that it's an unfamiliar type of transaction to them, or it's non-traditional, or it might scare them in some way. Have you ever done a transaction like this before? And then at least you can kind of pivot and say something like, look, I know that this is non-traditional. It's not something that you guys expected or wanted. Consider this as a backup option, your safety parachute, whatever it is, right? And while this is going on, I'm happy to kind of show you how this could benefit a seller of yours in the future. So I don't know, maybe we can try something along those lines. So I think that's kind of the situation with this agent here, is that he's unfamiliar with the process. The seller is obviously unfamiliar with the process as well. It's a VA loan. It's not a big VA loan. It looks like it's just shy of $300,000. So there's plenty of entitlement if they want to use any additional entitlement on their next purchase, potentially, right? Depending on a couple of other factors. So this is one that's not going to sell because let me write this note too. The agent wanted a buyer to pay for closing costs. Dead giveaway, right? Do you guys remember that when the agent says the issue that they've had is that no buyer has come in and said that they are going to pay for the closing costs? In my head, I was going, ding, ding, ding. That's my way to talk about their equity position. Even though I know it, that's him telling me that they don't have equity to pay closing costs on their side. So, if I can come in and pay him $5,000 or $10,000 and take over the mortgage, then maybe that's enticing. So that's kind of what I would do in 2 weeks is probably the time frame that I would follow up. The other one that we called on was, let me set a follow-up due date. All right. Okay, cool. The other one was that deal in Florida, and I was bordering, what's the best way to say it? I was walking a fine line between possibly offending the agent and her experience, but also trying to figure out a way to show her that what she thinks about VA loans and entitlement was incorrect. And when she mentioned that she was military and she's purchased, I think she said she purchased with VA before, or she works with a lot of VA clients. I forget exactly what it was, but the information that she had was incorrect. And basically what she said was that there's unlimited entitlement. It's not really true. Not true at all, actually. And that it depends, the qualification depends on other factors like assets, debts, those sorts of things that are on a balance sheet or a credit report, which she's correct about, right? Any lender is going to make sure that a buyer can pay for a mortgage. And so that's what a VA lender is going to do. They're going to do the same exact thing. So, but in that situation, what I wanted to show her is that even if we left this mortgage in place, that seller could qualify to purchase another home using about $420,000 in VA entitlement with 0% down. So anyway, those were two kind of good back-to-back calls, kind of interesting. Let's just keep on rolling. I don't think I ever dispoed that other call. I don't think I did. Let me do that real fast. Okay. Let's just keep on rolling. Those are two good conversations to start. I'm kind of getting into a little bit of a rhythm. I didn't feel like I was confident on either one of those phone calls, but it does take me a little bit of time to ramp up.
You've reached Lindsay Griffin with eXp Realty. My apologies for missing you.
Let me just delete this record right here. God, my nose itches. Here in Texas, we have cedar season and just kind of like allergy season. And what's funny is that when you move here, it takes you a little while to like catch the allergy. It's strange. It takes like 3 or 4 years sometimes. And I think that's getting me right now. So if I look puffy, if I'm sneezing, if I'm touching my nose, that's why. So apologies. Okay, cool. This is a really interesting one. This is one where the agent, here, wait. Okay, let me move this guy. This is one where the agent reached out to me and said, hey, would you mind getting in touch with me and my client at some point? So what we're going to try to set up there is a call between all of us. Follow up with him tomorrow. Did I talk with this guy? Oops, sorry guys, I'm just kind of cleaning some of this stuff up as we go. Same thing, I got to follow up with her later. Sorry, this is my fault. But this is actually a really good practice to get into where you're cleaning up your database as much as possible. So you're focusing on the calls that you need to make today. And the way that my system is all built out is I have what I call smart lists. So I have a smart list for new leads, and I want to hit them 2 to 3 times in the first couple of days at the very least. And then what I do is on day 3 or 4, if I don't get a hold of them, I'll probably send them over an offer, a formal offer on a contract or an LOI. Okay, so that's what I typically do with my new leads. The leads that I want to make sure that I touch on a, how do I say it? I try to keep my follow-ups really tight. So all that I care about is what's in front of me today. That's all that I care about. I don't care about what's in front of me tomorrow or the next day. I care about what I need to do today. So my follow-up due dates in my CRM are all designated to show up on the day that I have to call them. So nothing is going to show up in my smart list unless I have to call them today. So it's sort of like out of sight, out of mind for the most part. If they reach out to me, I can respond and do that sort of thing. But for me, I need to focus on what I have to do today just because I have so much to get through. So that's how I use my smart list in my CRM. Oh, sorry guys, I'm sniffly.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Hey, Laura, this is Mike. I was following up on our conversation regarding your listing on Cambridge. When you get a chance, give me a call back, 469-871-8687. Thanks. So you guys, if you guys have been listening for the past couple weeks or so, I don't leave a whole lot of voicemails. And the reason for that is because I would rather either text or I would rather just have a phone conversation. I've found that most people are responsive to text. And, you know, it's like, think about your phone for a second. You know, how often are you actually going through all of your voicemails and then following up. Some people are doing it a lot. I think that the majority of people aren't. I don't know if I fall in that category or not, but I'm just trying to do what the majority of people are doing so that hopefully we can just be more productive with our time.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available.
Oh, that's right. This guy, I talked to this guy yesterday. He had surgery yesterday and he picked up his phone. It was one of those uncomfortable situations where he picks up his phone and I was like, hey, how you doing? He's like, oh, terrible. And then he told me what happened and I felt awful about calling him. Okay, so let's also change this one. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm just kind of cleaning up some of this stuff here. Ooh, I do want to talk to this one. I remember this one being a good one. Yep. Interest rate's kind of high on this one, but that's okay.
Hello, this is Chantrell.
Chantrell, it's Mike Jackson. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I was touching base with you again. You and I spoke a little while back about your Panhandle Place listing. And
yeah, my clients aren't interested in the creative financing type route.
Okay. What was their feedback, just out of curiosity?
They just said they just would rather sell it and go and buy their other house in Texas.
Got it. So it sounds like their concern is qualifying for the next home. Is that right?
Yeah, they just want to be able to go to the next home clean. And then they have a loan officer, family friend who's talking to them to just sell the property. If it doesn't sell, because they need to sell by May, if it doesn't sell, then, I'll maybe come back and visit what you're talking about again. But right now, they don't even want to discuss it.
Got it. Now, and I don't blame them. It's not for everyone. I was only poking a little bit because generally it's a very easy process for us to show you guys how they can qualify for the next home, especially in Texas. That's actually where I live. So So that's not much of a problem. And I know that because this is an unfamiliar type of transaction, it might be a little bit scary and also confusing. So I just want to say that because I'm here to answer any questions that you have along the way.
Okay. Well, yeah, like I said, if we don't go into contract, maybe by the end of the month, give or take, or by the 15th of May, I'll be back in touch and maybe we can talk about doing it this way.
That sounds cool. And if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, will do.
Thank you, Chantrell. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, sweet agent. I got to work on my pitch, really. I mean, I feel like I'm struggling pretty hard. And, for me, it's not, how do I say it? There are times when I feel like I'm really on. And there are times when I feel like I'm really, really off. And it just kind of depends on what my rhythm, flow, and energy is. And who knows, it could be this eclipse coming. I don't know. But I think that, what's interesting is that for me, it's not like I can just step in my office and immediately make a great phone call. I need to build back up again, even if I was making phone calls until 7 p.m. the night before and I got into a good rhythm last night. You guys might be different. I'm just not that way. And I need to, for my own sake, get into a rhythm of making phone calls and practicing. And that's why I think that role play is super, super important. It's because on a daily basis, you need to start refining your skills. And if you're not doing it with somebody if you're not going to do it with somebody where there's no consequence, then you can play with some different ideas. So you can actually look at it a couple different ways, right? You can look at it as if I call an if I call an agent and I'm actually talking about an opportunity, I might screw up things here and there. I might sound like an idiot. I might say stupid stuff. But if I'm doing it with a role play partner, then there's no consequence, right? I can't screw anything up, and I can get feedback from that person. As opposed to, I guess the other way you can look at it is, it's sort of like, what's the best way to say it? It's sort of like throwing someone into the deep end and saying swim. And some people rise to the occasion in those situations. Some people don't. Some people sink, right? But there are some people who will rise to the occasion and perform better that way. But I do think that the majority of people are probably the type that would need to role play in a non-consequential environment before they get on the phone with somebody. And by the way, don't mistake that for role play, and don't phone call agents. Don't call agents. What I mean is role play in the mornings for 10, 20 minutes and then get on the phone. So hopefully you're getting a little bit better and a little bit better. So that's all that I mean by that. Sorry, I got on a little bit of a high horse there. Let's keep on rolling. Hold on, let me make notes. God, I'm stuffy, man. I'm wondering, do you guys know if there's any software where it takes notes of your phone calls and then it just kind of like bullet points that out and you can just kind of copy and paste that? I wonder if there's a software like that. If there is, let me know, because I'm really interested in that.
Hi,
Let me call her husband now.
Hi, this is Chris Waits with Tipsy Klein Realtors.
One thing that you guys will notice also here is that I'm just simply calling. I'm not even looking at the deal necessarily. I don't even know what the address is on this one. But the idea is just to get people on the phone, because otherwise you're not going to have any conversations.
Hello, this is Tiffany.
Tiffany, it's Mike Jackson. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. And you?
Good, thank you. I was calling you on your listing on Coppice Drive. Is that still available?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, cool. We submitted an offer a little while back on that. I don't think that I ever got a response from you. And so I want to touch base with you.
Yes, I called you and emailed you, and you didn't respond back or anything, because I was telling you that that number wouldn't work. They can't close before June.
Okay.
For one, and for two, they can't take less than $356 because they have a mortgage that's open on it, so they won't be able to take no less than at least $356.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that response to our first offer, and I actually sent you a counter offer that hopefully solved that problem. Tell me a little bit more about their situation. So you said that they need to stay in the house until June. Is that right?
Correct. They can't leave before June. So like June 1st.
Okay. All right. So
I'll confirm, but I think it's June.
okay, no worries. We're totally flexible with closing times or even doing some sort of a lease back. So that's not a problem at all. What's been the activity like, Tiffany, on the house since we last spoke?
So, I mean, we've gotten action on it. They just, the dates. So like I said, it's just the dates. People need to move in before June.
Oh, I see. So they're turned off by the timeline.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I got it. Okay, cool. So the other offer that we sent over, and I don't know if you saw this, I'm happy to resend it if you want me to, but it basically solves the problem of them either breaking even or coming to the closing table with cash. And so I don't know if you've been presented with this type of an offer yet, at least before mine. But basically what it was is, instead of the seller having to take care of their side of the closing costs and then also paying both sides of the commission, we would actually pay both of those. So we would pay all the closing costs. We would pay you your commission. And instead of them breaking even or possibly even losing money, depending on the offer, we were actually paying them cash at close. But the difference between our offer, the second offer, and the first offer was that on the second, if we did all of those things, we would ask to take over the mortgage as it stands. And I'm curious if you saw that, and if so, what the feedback was on that.
I will look at that again. I don't think I did, but what do you mean keep close on the loan as it stands?
So basically,
are you saying that from a loan assumption standpoint, or from the point of their name still remaining on the loan?
Yeah, it's the latter. So it's very, very similar to an assumption. But the only problem with an assumption is that this is going to take me probably 8 weeks to maybe 6 months to qualify for an assumption. And I know that your sellers are on a timeline that might, provide some flexibility there, but they probably don't want to wait 6 months, I would assume, right?
I mean, it could be discussed, but
Okay.
I will say, for the sake of this conversation, if it's a no.
Okay. So I don't want to wait 6 months either, personally. So instead of waiting that time frame of 8 weeks to 6 months or so, what we could do is we can close whenever your sellers want to close. And the way that it works is we just simply leave the mortgage in place. We purchase the property, but we leave the mortgage in place as it stands right now. And so that's the biggest difference. But of course, the advantage is that instead of the sellers having to come to the table with cash to close the transaction, we're actually going to pay them. Because we're paying for all of your costs, we're paying the closings, we're paying them some of their equity if they have any at close. So that's the advantage for the seller in this situation.
Okay. I think I have to look back. I want to say I did see that. But see, the thing about it is, the reason why that's probably not going to work is because they don't want their name to be attached to this home at all once it's sold, because they still have to purchase another home.
Yeah, I can show them how that would work. That's
and
not a
so
problem.
that will be on their debt to income ratio as well as their credit.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I can show you how that would work. We do that all the time.
Well, like, I'm listening. Like, what do you mean? Like, how that work? How would that work?
So there are a couple things here. This is a VA loan. And so there's an issue with entitlement that I'd want to discuss with the seller and you. And then there's also the issue, of course, that you brought up, which is how do they qualify for their next home, right? If they keep this mortgage in place. And there are a lot of different ways that we can do that. The most popular way to do that is what we'll do is set up what's called a lease purchase agreement. And so basically what we would do is the seller would give us a lease to lease the property. We would pay them a first month's rent and a security deposit to secure that lease. And then what happens is, because that lease is in place, and it's actually a lot easier with a VA loan, then what happens is the seller is able to take that income that they're receiving from the lease as income against on their credit report. And so it doesn't look like a debt. It looks like income coming in. So that basically equals out, crosses out, zeroes out whatever the payment is on this mortgage so that they're able to qualify for their next home. Does that make sense?
So you said yes, but you said with the loan assumption, it would take, you said 6 to 8 months?
It takes a long time. And the problem with assumption is that two things. First of all, again, this is a VA loan. I'm not a veteran. So if I came in and I assumed it, it would still be on their entitlement.
Correct.
Right? The other thing is that, let's say that I do try to assume it, and 3, 4, 5 months down the line, for whatever reason, the bank can say no. It's not as simple as I show them my income, my W-2s, my tax returns, all those sorts of things, and they just simply qualify me based on my DTI. They can just say no. And so I've been in a situation a lot where a seller is waiting on the assumption to be approved for a very qualified buyer. And for some reason, the bank says no, and then the seller's back at square one. So it kind of puts them behind the 8 ball. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But if their concern, and it should be, by the way, it's a good concern. If their concern is how they qualify for their next home, I'm happy to show them how that could work if you guys decide to go down this route. And it's not for everyone, but maybe it could work for them at some point, and I'm happy to show you guys how that could work.
I will talk to them. I mean, I don't think it's going to work, Mike, just being frank, only because they do not want to be attached to the home once it's sold.
I get that. I hear that literally all day long.
The benefit of it, them, you paying for everything, you paying for the, paying for the commissions and paying for the closing costs and things like that is great. But in hindsight, they are still responsible for this house. They will still be attached to this house. They will still be responsible for the house. And if worst case scenario, something happens with you or happens with what you're trying to do or your purpose for this house, you can walk away and they will still be responsible for this house, because at the end of the day, it will still be in their name. And lease or not, you can, even though you don't have an intention of breaking the lease, it's a lease. It can be broken just like people break, loans and end up in foreclosure. And I will speak with him, but he doesn't want to chance that, because It sounds good now, but 2, 3, 4 years down the line, it may come back. And that is not what he's wanting to do. And, that's not a risk that he's wanting to take.
Yep. No, I agree.
So
I agree. And, in fact, we haven't even talked about how they're protected, but let me just clarify the way that a structure like this could work. So the lease purchase is really only just so they can purchase their next home. Once they purchase their next home, we then close on the subject property we're talking about on Coppice, and then we break that lease.
But see, even though, not only that, but even though with the lease to own showing the income, it still doesn't negate their award amount for their VA loan. So it will still impact that loan amount.
Correct.
So even if you do have that lease, that still does nothing for them freeing up $350,000.
Correct. Do they have any other VA loans?
I can't say, I can't give you all that information, but
here, I'll look. Hold on. Hold on one sec. I'll look. I'll see if they do. Because we're talking about 3 completely different things, and you're bringing up 3 really good points. And so I've only really addressed how they can qualify for the next home. We haven't even talked about how they're protected in the case of default. We also haven't talked about their VA entitlement. So they don't have any more VA loans. They only have one, and they borrowed $357,000 initially. Are they staying in state, or are they going out of state? Do you know?
No, they're not staying in state. I'm not even really sure. Okay. I'm not sure.
Okay, cool.
I can't say.
Well, let's just say hypothetically that they move down to Florida. If they move down to Florida, even with the amount that they've borrowed so far from their VA entitlement, they can still qualify for another $424,000 from a VA loan with 0% down.
That's not completely true because they are only awarded a certain amount.
Correct.
So it's not based on city or state. It's based on their eligibility. So they're not guaranteed to be approved for a whole $400,000 because if their complete award amount is $600,000, that's their number regardless. So if they move down to Florida, they will only have $250,000 to use in Florida, and that's not possible in Florida.
Well, I think you and I are probably not on the same page with that. I think that just in my experience, it's really based largely on the county loan limits and not on, what you're saying. So basically, in my experience, veterans are entitled to whatever the county loan limits are and what they've borrowed so far. And so that's a whole separate point. We can address that at some point. But even if they were hypothetically to purchase a home down in Florida, they could still technically qualify, and I've seen this a lot, for another $400,000 approximately. And then the other thing too, you mentioned the protection for the seller. I know that I'm throwing a lot at you, by the way, but in the case of default, 2 to 3 years down the line, that's actually a best case scenario for your seller. And what I mean by that is, let's say that I pay your seller $5,000-$10,000 at close instead of them breaking even or having to pay. And I've paid you your commission, I've paid closing costs, and 2 or 3 years down the line, let's say that the market appreciates the way that it has historically for, at 5% per year. So this property is going to go from, $400,000, let's say, up to $450,000. And so in the case of default, because I give the seller a promissory note and a deed of trust that protects them the same way that Bank of America would protect themselves, they can foreclose on me right away and take the property back and just resell it again if they so choose.
Mike, okay, I'll take a look at it again, but I am going to have to give you a call back. I'm actually at an event right now, and I just wanted to make sure I grabbed your call, but I will look over the thing that you sent me, and you can resend it again so it can be at the top of my emails, and I'll present it to the sellers this evening.
Yeah, no worries. And I'm sure you guys will have questions if there is interest, and feel free to reach out to me.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you, Tiffany. Okay. I just decided to throw everything, not everything, but 90% of everything at them. The reason for that, I don't know, maybe just need a little bit of a change on the phone calls, but I wanted to throw everything at her just so she could understand the process. So what we were talking about before is the first thing she mentioned is how can they qualify for the next home? Okay, cool. So if I can show you guys how they can qualify for the next home, let's talk about the other things as they come up. And she just started to throw things at me, right? What happens in the case of default? That sounds great right now, but what happens 2 or 3 years down the line if you don't make payments? Okay, well, we haven't even talked about that yet, so let me address that. The entitlement, whole different thing altogether, right? So if their concern is entitlement, let's say that they're not going to buy a $500,000 home wherever they're going. They want to borrow or they want to use their full entitlement, then they should be fine. They should be fine, right? And again, this isn't for everyone. I'm not in a situation where I want to drive this home so that I convince her. I want them to convince themselves based on the information that I've given to them. So that's the angle that I'm taking, is let me provide you with all the information. You decide what's best for you. I'll be your resource and your guide throughout the process, and make sure that it's done in the most ethical, transparent, legal way so that you're protected and whoever you work with and sell it to is protected as well. So that's how I'm looking at it right there. Let me make some quick notes here and then probably just call it a day right now. 54. Okay. Okay, cool. So guys, day 18 in the books. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate your support. Let me know what you guys think, what I could have done differently. The reason that I am doing this is because I want to continue to get better at my craft, and I'm still crafting it, right? I'm always a work in progress. I want to make sure that I'm doing what is, I want to make sure that I'm doing everything on a daily basis to improve, right? It's that 1% better idea. What can I do daily to improve? So tell me in the chat, in the comments, what you guys think I could have done better, maybe what I didn't do well. I don't care about things that I did well, right? There may not be any there. Hopefully there are, but if there's not, if there is, that's not really what I care about. I want to improve, not be complimented. So I appreciate you guys. Have a great day. Good luck out there. Get on the phone. Okay. We'll talk to you guys later.